This webinar is based on the importance of road signages and markings to enhance the safety to road users. Do you ever wondered why do they put too much aluminum plaques with the metal post hanging on the side of the road? It's very important. Let's discuss this in the webinar. The agenda for the webinar is to find out why road signs and markings are important and its applications. And what do you learn out of it? Do you really think you should learn out of something this webinar? You can. You sure do. If you're a civil engineer and you want to get into real-time projects, you really need this. Getting a new perspective on how to design and use the signs and markings in real-time civil engineering projects. So why road signs and markings are important? Why that so? Because we need safety when driving. It's too bad out there. You can meet with an accident without any safe road user applications that you find in the roads. What are the requirements of the road signs? Let's go see what's the requirements is. Roles and purpose and standard of usage. There's many standards depending on where you are, which country you are from. Different country follow different standards for the usage of signs. Extreme use of signs. There is cons and pros altogether if you use the signages extremely. We'll jump right on it when we get to that. Categorizations of signs. There are a variety of signs that is divided by its purpose and roles that needs to be used out on the road. The designing of signs. You might think, seriously, do you design the signs? Yes, we need to design them because you cannot have the same sign used for 30 kilometers per hour and 80 kilometers per hour. That differs. Illumination and retroreflectivity. This is very important at night. You have visibility of the signs when you drive at night. If you cannot see the signs, you might end up in a ditch somewhere or meet with a fatal or serious crashes. Dimensions, that's what I was talking about, designing them. It has a different dimensions of plaques, different dimensions for the poles and posts. Fonts. And there are certain fonts different authorities and states follow. It has to be, clear, kind of, if you're driving in a high-speed highways, if you're driving in a local streets, that might differ. Let's see what are the roles and purposes of the road signs. It really plays a key role in guiding a road user throughout their journey. It is also an important aspect to safety, and it warns the road users of any constraints. Like I said, if it stops on jumping out on the ditch if you don't use the illuminated signs at night. What is the standard of the usage? The application or the usage of signs is to be determined by locations. It varies by locations. The sign application may vary depending on urban and rural condition, as well as the weather conditions, as time of the day and time of the night. It varies always. You have to have a keen, analysis before you design them and use the signs in different places. Traffic analysis, as I said, is conducted at a project location to find the necessary signs required. You cannot put too many signs and confuse the drivers. As I said, extreme usage of signs is very fatal and very bad for the road design. Geometric design and sign application should be synchronized for better results. That's what I said. If you use too many signs, it will confuse the road users. Geometric design should always synchronize with the sign application and designs. Let's see what happens if you use the extreme signs out on the road. The regulatory and warning, there as per the categories that I was talking about, the regulatory and warning signs shall be used very, very limited, or it might lose their effectiveness. So if the route marking signs and the guide signs, it is used always frequently in the highways and local streets, just to keep the drivers, notified that they are using NH27 or NH44, whatever they're using the highway for. Let's see the categories of signs, shall we? There are regulatory signs, which regulates where do you have to go, where do you have to stop, where do you have to give way to others, all that regulatory stuff that you have to follow using these signs. The warning signs, it's really important because it is warning you about something about the site constraints. You have to look out for warning signs. You have to keep that in mind when you're driving out there. If the engineers are warning about there are something about in the road is not suitable for the driving speed that you're doing at the same location, you have to look out for things that come up on the road. And there are guide signs. It guides you where you have to go. If you want to go to Kolkata and if you put Bangalore signs to Kolkata, it never takes you to Kolkata, does it? You have to have a Kolkata signs in your route. Service signs, it tells you where the services are. Let's say if you need a petrol pump, if you need something else like a convenience store, if you need a shopping malls, something like that. If you're out on the highway, you have to keep the people or the drivers notified about all of this extracurricular activities that you can do out on the road. If they're interested, they can hop on the exit and use the services. Toll road signs. This is always you have been through this, right? Roads with the tolls, they have to have a signages for every 500 to 1 kilometer, mentioning that you are appearing to the toll road and you have to pay this tax. Just pay the tax and see the signs, and you can go about the toll. Information science. Information science gives you informations about what's around you, if there is any recreational activities going on, if there is any cities around you, you can take right and left. There is a city that's all about information science. The recreational science that just spoke about. This is mostly used in parts of United States, Australia. It's rarely used here in parts of India, I would say. I've not encountered any of this in the out on the road. If there are many, very few, I could say. Changeable message signs. If there are the work, temporary traffic control, if there is any work going on out on the road, you have to keep this changeable message signs so that you can stop people if the work zone is changing a little bit from one lane to other. You can change however you want it. Like this lane, deep left lane is taking the work now, so you can use the other two lanes. The middle lane is getting the work now, so you can take the either side of the lanes. So this is kind of changing message signs would convey the messages to the road users. Emergency management sign. This is all about when we have floods across Uttarakhand. The few months ago, I believe, you use to keep the people out of the flooded area, and tsunami kind of bigger disasters happen. You create a separate signages for emergency management. You keep people out of the harm's way and get them to the safer place or shelter. So that's where it's used for the emergency kind of situations. Let's play a game, shall we? You found out there are too many categories in the signages. Let's see how many people have knowledge about something like this. Do you think this signages would be? And this, and this, and this, and this, and this. You can write it down. We can come back when you ask questions to the host. You can reply to that chat. We'll see how much deeper that you thought you would know when you're driving every day on the road about the signages. Service signs, where you have the petrol pumps, where you have the different things that you can shop around. Regulatory signs, you have to follow this, speed limits and everything. Warning signs, as I said, if you miss the warning signs, you might end up in a ditch somewhere. You have to make sure you know about that really well. Recreation signs, as I said, this is not being used here in India, I believe, not that much compared to the other countries that they do. Route marking signs, as I said, the NH 27, 44, whatever, the drivers need to know where they are driving. Guide signs is telling you where do you want to go to tea room in Delhi, where do you want to go for village hall and everything. I hope the answers are one or two, three correct out of this webinar. I hope you got that right. So let's get on to the design of signs. You might have thinking, why do we design them? Just why not put it or place it wherever you want it? It's not. It doesn't work like that. Let's see what's the design requirements. The basic is you have to provide a signboard with the legible information that road user can see if they're driving very high speed or lower speeds. So you make sure they can see what's in the sign way ahead of their driving, so they don't encounter any problems in the future when they're driving in the front. The signs are shown in different shapes and sizes. As I said, it could vary by location. You have to do the traffic analysis to find out which location suits the different shapes and sizes better than other. The fonts used shall be recognized by the road users while discussing before legibility. The fonts plays an important role for the legibility of the signs. If you put Times New Roman, it might not be able to see for everybody that drives on the road. There should be a font created just for this road signs. Illumination of the signs and retroreflectivity. Previously discussed, at night, we need this illumination and retroreflectivity, don't we? Regulatory warning guide signs and object marking signs should be made retroreflective, because at night, this is really important, as I said. This should be made retroreflective. And if at all retroreflectivity doesn't work, you can put LED lights around the signs, or you can put reflective tapes around them, because they have a certain limit that the retroreflectivity works. Let's say 5 years or 10 years. If it doesn't work that much years, you can go about different solutions, like using LED lights, using reflective tapes. There are buttons that you can, just tap onto the buttons. It turns on, but it's too much labor for the buttons, I would say. Reflective materials used, there are standard guidelines which you have to follow by the local authorities, laid down as per different local authorities have different standards and different guidelines to follow. So you would use them for the reflective. There's something called lumens when you use the illumination part of it. Lumens, when how much lumens does the reflectivity of the tape or the LED light has? How far can you see if you use this? There's some distance you have to keep that in mind when designing the reflective materials. Let's see the dimension of signs. As I said, different areas, different speed has different dimensions. Shapes and sizes may vary according to ASTO, DMRB, and IRC. I hope you know this. ASTO, DMRB, and IRC. ASTO is for US, DMRB is UK, IRC is India. The standard guidelines are subject to change dimensions depending on the speed limit for various streets. Local and highway will have a completely different speed limits. Let's say 30 kilometers per hour is not applied to highways. It might happen in India, not outside. Maybe heterogeneous traffic would causes too much traffic in Indian highways. But if it is homogeneous traffic, like in United States, Australia, or UK, on the highways, it's 80 kilometers per hour. If you're going less than the speed limit, you are stopped by the traffic cops and you will get a ticket. And the color used for the sign plaques shall be almost similar to all the guidelines. You have a different colors for the sign plaques. Let's say green color goes for the guide signs, as you saw before. White color goes for the regulatory signs. Red color also goes to the regulatory signs, stop sign, giveaway sign. I hope you have seen them out on the road. Yellow color goes for the warning signs. Orange color goes for the emergency signs. As I said previously, emergency management signs differs by different locations. I would put it on the plate there because it's not similar for every country. Yellow and orange is for warning. See, that came in. Green and blue is for information. That differs by state and authorities that they discuss and use what they want. Red is for stop and slow. That is regulatory signage. Let's see about the fonts of the signs. It's exciting, right? There are too many fonts that they use by different local governments and local authorities, and they follow different styles and guidelines and standards. To keep the signs visible from a distance, previously discussed, the fonts are crucial to deliver the information. Crucial is very important. You are driving at a speed. If you cannot see the sign, that's a design fault. We cannot be seeing that in the project, can we? The fonts are for the signs are decided by the local authorities. Yeah, there are some signages where for Kolkata, let's give an example. There are Kolkata signs. You have to use some local names. You cannot bring the Bangalore signs to the Kolkata, can we? There are some of the signages you have to make it per region, so that needs to be discussed with the local authorities and get the approval from. And so anyways, finally the local authorities came in and give you the approval for any custom made signages. Frequently used are Clearview font. The United States follows Clearview font. Transport font is followed by UK. I believe it's Australia too. I'm not sure. Highway Gothic font. This is mostly used in Australia as well. There are different fonts that different authorities will follow because people think they conduct a survey. They show the fonts, from a distance. They go about the numbers, how much percentage of the acceptance rate for the font they have got, and they will try to use the font they have got the acceptance rates for. Let's see the requirement for the road marking functions and the purpose, standardized usage, retro reflectivity. It's almost similar to road signs, but it goes about doing a signages, and road marking is completely different. Color, material, which material you're using on the roads should be visible. Arrangements, what kind of arrangements. There are different arrangements for different locations and different traffic conditions. So let's go about finding them out now. Functions and limitations. There are for everything in your life you do, there are functions, there are limitations. If you eat too much, you become fat. If you eat too less, you'll be too thin. You cannot be healthy. Markings are used to provide guidance and information to the road users. What markings are providing the guidance and information for, you might say? Let's jump in. There are different types of markings used on pavement curb and channelized island and delineators. Delineators, you might think what it is. Delineators is something that deviates in the road when you have an exit and entrance to the highway. When you have two roads separating, markings have limitations from weather. If there's too much soil, let me give an example about weather conditions. If you're in a snowy conditions, you cannot see any markings if there's too much snow on the road. If there's stormy conditions, like in Dubai, soil storms come in the road and you cannot even see anything in the road. Even it's not possible to see the roads on, at least forget about the marking, you cannot even see the roads. And traffic volume. If there's too much traffic, you forget about seeing the marking at all. Frequency of maintenance is higher compared to any other traffic control devices. Yeah, the maintenance is higher compared to any signages. Let's say signages, if you put them in one place, it might stay for 5 or 6 years or maybe 10 years if it works. The marking doesn't work like that. If the marking is put down and you have to maintain them every year, maybe 2, it is very higher compared to the signages. Let's go by the standard usage, shall we? Every road marking has its own meaning. Do you believe so? Every road marking has its own purpose, has its own role, has its own function. Let's see how that works. It has different usage for new payment, maintenance of traffic, and detours. Detours are something that when there is a road closure, you have to take another route. So that is called detours. You have to keep informed the road users about things happening in the road. You cannot tell them 2 minutes before they come into the place. You have to warn them from at least 2 kilometers prior to them entering to the project location. During repairs, the road marking is temporarily removed, and to make the people divert the road or take the detours, and made different temporary markings and temporary signs are placed for temporary roads. Using it is being taped off using the same color as a pavement to that's just the usage of how they use if there's any maintenance of traffic or detours. Let's go about retroreflectivity again. We need the retroreflectivity for the markings as well. Yeah, it comes to the point at night you have to see the markings. There are some things that it is not that much in usage in India, I would say. People would go wherever they want, wherever they please to go. They wouldn't even tell you where they are going by indicating themselves. I would say this is mostly important when you're on the snowy roads, when you're on the harsh conditions like it's raining, it's flooding. You have to keep on one lane. If you keep changing lanes, the cars might skid and you get into serious crash. That shouldn't be happening. So we keep the markings retroreflective so you can see it at night and keep the users safe out there. I would feel proud about doing all these things, keeping the users safe. Road markings plays an important role in the narrow roads to avoid fatal head-on collisions. Markings plays an important role. I would say if it is two-way roads without any barrier in the middle, without any road separator in the middle, without any island in the middle, this plays a very important role. People will find where my lane ends, so I can keep away from the other vehicles on the other side of the road coming head-on collisions. So that is fatal. We should avoid it by placing retroreflective pavement marking. Let's see colors. There are different colors used for the pavement markings, I would say. As I said, authorities make the decisions on this. They would prefer various color combinations for their pavement markings. Mostly preferred is white, yellow, red, blue, and purple. I have not seen purple by myself, but I've read it. I've seen it in the pictures, not through the right in front of me. I didn't see purple ever at all. Let's see the material used, which is commonly used material is paint and thermoplastics. As I said, the paint costs too much, so they are getting rid of paints for the new projects. So they are using thermoplastics, which is pretty good at retroreflectivity. So the paint is something that you put down and you have to give them retroreflectivity, which costs them too much. Now thermoplastics are the latest technology. They came about using too much on the projects now. Providing the colored pavements and raised roads are the emerging. I would say, yeah, you would make a pavement different color for the bicycle users, for the pedestrians, to make people understand, oh, I'm getting closer to the pedestrian crossing. Let's stop a little bit or slow down, let them go. It's just raising an awareness to keep the road users and pedestrians and cyclists safe on the road. That's just recent technology or recent projects that they came about in European countries. I've seen too many projects rolling out of with the raised intersections with colored pavements for pedestrian cycle paths. How are the arrangements? There are different kind of arrangements made for the pavement marking. Let's see one by one. A double continuous line. Double continuous line. How does that look? A single continuous line, a broken line, a dotted line. Let's just check out in the next slide. How does it look? Double continuous line is that double line with yellow where it says different things about different lines. Let's discuss on how that works. Double continuous line is something that you shouldn't be overtaking or passing the other driver. You should stay in your lane and keep on driving. Whenever there is broken line like this, that is where you come about overtaking people. This is used for double road, which is two-way traffic in just two lanes, a narrower road, I would say. This is used for curving in the same direction traffic. If it is a curve, you shouldn't be overtaking the other vehicles in the same direction of traffic. So when you can overtake, this should be on place. So this is mostly used for bicycles and entrances and everything. There are many more. Depending on the authorities, they use different kinds of payments. I've seen zigzag payments in UK that says you cannot stop in the payment. You cannot stop or stand on the roadside. So let's do a quick quiz, shall we? What do you think the first one would be? We'll see what if you get it 100% right, 50% right, or what do you think these lines are? Symbols and lines. And what do you think this line? There's a continuous line, there's a broken line, there's a continuous line on the other side. And what do you think this one is? I would say this is a disabled parking area, wherever there's a disabled person driving. So they have an entitlement to have their own parking spot where they go. This is the urban street. The gap between the pavement marking is much more lesser compared to this. So highways would have much gap and much bigger lines compared to urban areas. So this continuous line tells them, do not go beyond this point. Do not go beyond that point. Here. You can just go here, just that. Do not go beyond this line. There's sidewalk and pedestrian stuff going on there. I hope this session was useful. You have learned something out of it.